A lot of these guys were kids when when the business happened to them personally and professionally. And we were young guys. People started attacking me from the outside, and it wasn't necessarily the public, it was our inner circle. And then you have myself that's sort of already kind of, very, very critical of everything. My voice, the way I look, and now we're here. I wanted this, and now we've arrived. We've got a record deal. We're recording with legends and all this stuff. There's a tremendous amount of pressure that goes along with that, to where you want to live up to expectations. I wasn't surrounded by the best girls at that time. I was involved with some goofy girls that were dangerous, all the stuff that comes along with, the music, entertainment stuff that rock stars, they hang out with, edgy females. It was a challenge for many years. When the public decides your time is over, it's over. It's more challenging than if you were to start for the first time.
Jeff Timmons is known as the founding member of popular 90s/2000s boy band 98 Degrees, a group that is still performing and making music to this very day. 98 Degrees recently made headlines as Jeff and fellow bandmate Nick Lachey spoke out about what was really going on behind the scenes amid the height of the band's fame for ID's Boy Band Confidential, a Hollywood Demons event. Now, as part of the Dory Jackson interview, Jeff is opening up about the band's early days, pre-social media fame, his mental health and faith journey, and more.
First off, I'm so happy to see you. This has been, I think, 2 years since I've seen you, physically. We've talked here and there, but how are you?
I'm doing great. Congratulations on the new podcast. It's amazing. I'm not surprised. My wife and I talk about you all the time. We're like, she's pretty good at spotting talent. She's much better at spotting talent and pretty much everything.
Okay.
But she was like, Dory's really talented. I said, watch, you're going to see her on TV. She's just a natural. She's great at all this stuff. We've been around for a long time and have seen people come and go, but you're one of the good ones. So I'm happy to see so much. So awesome.
Thank you so much. And I love your wife so much too.
Me too.
Yes. In preparing for today, something I discovered is that you were enrolled at Kent State University and studying psychology before dropping out to pursue your entertainment career. And it was very sudden because you were performing at a party with some high school friends and you're like, all right, let's go. So what was that conversation like with your parents? Because I'm sure they were not happy.
That's a great question. And there are a couple of operative words: student and studying. Those didn't exist. I was attending. I was enrolled at Kent State University.
Okay.
Going to class, studying. I wouldn't even call myself a student. I had bounced around at a bunch of different colleges. It was actually my fourth college.
Wow.
Because where I grew up, it's all football. It's football. It's a really small town in Ohio. Football. And obviously, I'm not that big. And I'm not that good, but I wanted to play. So I kept going to all these smaller schools and playing a little bit and, messing around. And I was a good student growing up in school, but not in college. I just, got away from my parents, and I was like most kids do, I was like partying, having a good time, enjoying my independence, and had landed at Kent State. My dad was like, all right, the football dream's over. You're going to a regular school. You're going to finish your degree. And I had managed to get pretty close to graduating and ran into some guys at a party that I had gone to high school with. And they were football players too. They were a little bit younger than me. I hadn't really hung out with them. And they invited me back to their apartment, where instead of me going back to my dorm, I stayed at their apartment, never went back to my dorm, never went back to class, just hung out with them all the time. And they had a party one night, and some girls were there, and they were not paying attention to us at all. And they were talking about these guys that sang for them. And I had some background in singing. I had been in a bunch of different things outside of sports, musicals and bands. And that wasn't cool, but I had experience with quartets. And I'm like, guys, can anybody sing in here? And, the couple of guys were like, kind of. And we went in the bathroom, and I'm like, you sing this part, you sing this part, you sing this part, you sing this part. And we went out, sang for them a cappella. My Girl, the old Temptation song. And they liked it. Look, who knows? Everybody was drinking. It probably was terrible. But I saw the reaction, and it's very shallow, but I was like, man, look, this is a good way for us to get girls. But really, the guys sounded pretty good. compared to some of these other quartets and groups and barbershop quartets I've been in. I'm like, we should think about singing. And at that time, Boyz II Men was the rage. They were huge. And I fell in love. The first time I heard their music, I fell in love with them and stayed up all night trying to listen to their song come on the radio again. People don't understand that. You can't just, back then, you couldn't just press something and listen to a song. You had to request it. But I was like, man, there could be another group like Boyz II Men out there. And so we started practicing, and that's how we started what ended up becoming 98 Degrees. Those guys weren't members of 98 Degrees. They ended up quitting. But that's what gave me the bug.
Have you heard from any of those guys that quit?
Well, I've been friends with them ever since. I mean, I stayed friends with them.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I became close friends with them, and they were talented. I mean, they were talented guys. I mean, I don't think for that they're the same talent caliber that 98 Degrees has with Nick.
Oh, okay.
But they're super good singers and great songwriters, and we've written songs throughout the years and stayed in touch, and they're dear friends of mine, and they've been a part of this ride with me, even though they kind of decided to go in a different direction.
Yeah. Do you have like this sense of pride as being the founding member of 98 Degrees?
I mean, people call me that. I'll take it. I'll take it. But we kind of founded it together. I was the first one that kind of left Ohio to go do it. So I don't mind people saying that. It makes me look like I was some brilliant guy. But no, I was just taking a risk. I mean, I was young and in school, and my parents were. I didn't even answer your question. You asked what
the college. Yeah,
my parents. That's a good question. I'm just running my mouth over here.
I was enjoying it.
Anyway, so I that night, we were doing keg stands and drinking a lot of beer and trying to impress these girls. But I called my mom on the phone, which at that time was attached to a wall. It had a cord. Oh. Anyway, so there were no cell phones. So I called her up, and I was like, it was long distance. So I was like, oh, man, it's going to cost me some money. Anyway, I called him up, and I was like, look, Mom, I'm going to start a group, and we're going to be world famous. She's like, have you been drinking? I said, yes. But these guys, we just impressed a whole room full of girls. Man, we sounded good. I think we're going to quit school and go to California and try to make it big. And she's like, yeah, sure. Okay, whatever, honey. I was like, no, I'm dead serious. And so she was like, kind of chalked that conversation up to us partying. But then I kept being serious about it. I'm like, look, I really want to do this. She was like, you need to finish school. My dad was like, you need to finish school. But eventually we started singing around town a cappella. They could tell I was serious until I was really into it. And it was interesting because my whole life, my dad had stressed, you guys got to go to college. I didn't go to college, although he was ultra successful anyway. My brother went through, graduated. But I said, look, this is something I really believe in and think I can do. And he was like, look, go do it, try it. But promise me, if you guys don't make it, you'll go back to school. So we made that agreement. And there was no time limit on it. Those guys know me, my whole life. They're my parents, and they knew when I go after some things, I really go after it 100%. So they were supportive the whole way through. But it was they weren't happy at first. They had paid for 3-4 years of school already. So but I ended up paying them back.
Exactly, because I feel like you overpaid at this point. It's like, I became successful. I made it. So
Well, look, your parents are still your parents. So anytime my ego would get out of control, just talk to your parents. They're like, yeah, great. I love that you just flew here on a private jet, but now go take out our trash and go clean your room, do this chore, go to church, whatever, right? So we tried to stay grounded, but they were definitely there as pillars and support system for me the whole way.
What was fame like for you guys back then? Because I feel like, you didn't have social media, but it was still such a huge thing.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
And so for us, we were on Motown, and Motown Records, they really didn't know how to market us, right? So they were trying to make us a super urban group. They didn't want to put our images on anything because they want people to think we were a black group, an R&B group, which the public doesn't like to be fooled. We didn't want to do that, although we're heavily influenced by R&B music and groups with lots of harmonies. We just wanted to be ourselves. So we had a struggle with the label for there for a while. So the first record we put out was a hit, but people didn't kind of relate it to our group. When we would show up places, they didn't know that we sang it. They expected something else, that we were being promoted as something else. So it didn't translate. So I thought we were going to get dropped. We all did. And then we ended up kind of doing some grassroots stuff on our own. We went up into Canada and wrapped a Winnebago with our pictures on it. and went up there where Backstreet was performing. And we literally went outside of there where people were buying tickets at their venues. We were up in Canada, and we ended up going to wherever the Backstreet Boys, girls were camped out to buy tickets or go see them. And we would park outside and sing a cappella, hand out swag that we had put together ourselves. And then we ended up breaking Canada. And once we broke Canada, we went to Southeast Asia, broke there. And then the president of the label ended up getting fired. They brought in a new guy, and Backstreet Boys then ascended, become huge. They're like, well, we have a version of that. We should probably, put these guys on MTV and put them in the teen magazines. And after we did that, it was bananas. TRL, when that happened, it was crazy. Like, we went from driving our own Winnebago, buying our own CDs to can't go anywhere. Like, you're surrounded every place you go. And that's what we wanted. We were thrilled. I think that little slice of humble pie with the first album, gave us perspective. And we're all pretty grounded guys from Ohio, blue collar, but really we're like, man, we should relish this and enjoy it. But it was crazy. It was like, man, be careful what you wish for, because when it comes, you don't quite know how to handle it. You expect you would know. Yeah. But for us, it was a frenzy. Any place we'd go, we'd be surrounded. And it's funny because my daughter's a fan of Cat's Eye, my youngest one.
Oh, they're cute.
Cat's Eye, and they're getting big, and Bieber and all those guys. I'm like, that kind of stuff used to happen to us. And she's like, no way. And I'm like, yeah, no, really. Like, people used to get crazy for us like that. And it was a pretty wild experience. And you even though we were in our early 20s, and man, at that point, you never know quite how to experience and interpret that kind of stuff, because you're never prepared for it. So I can't imagine what some of these younger people go through with social media. It's got to be just crazy.
Oh, I know. And with your kids, how are they like grasping your fame? Do they appreciate it? Do they like your work?
Look, my older kids, they were born when we had a big break. So the first 10 years, I was home all the time doing music from the home or doing gigs that weren't in 98 degrees and really just being a dad. So they didn't have any idea. And now the younger kid, I'm remarried. So my stepkids and my daughter that I have with Amanda, they've been around it the whole time, because that's after we came back. Right. So, but they just see me as dad, which is exactly how I want them to see me. I want them to have as normal of a life, or as balanced of a life as possible. And they've all handled it well. My older kids were a little bit surprised when we came back and went on tour with Boyz II Men, and new kids, and we're on a tour bus. They're like, this is what you do? I said, I told you I did some cool stuff.
Yeah.
They were like, no, this is cool. You're still not cool. Like this, but this is okay.
That is a big deal. This is a thing.
It was fun. Yeah, it was a lot. It's been a lot of fun. The ride has been great.
Yeah, it's so interesting because you guys are truly kind of this non-dancing boy band. Why didn't you guys really dance? And was that a conscious decision?
Well, look, even if we tried, yes, it was kind of a conscious decision, because there weren't really groups that were doing that. All the groups we were influenced, I guess Boyz II Men did dance a little, but they had ballads, right? We fell in love with their ballads. And then, we were like a true vocal group who was inspired by like Four Tops and Four Seasons, and then the more R&B groups like Jodeci and Shy and Boyz II Men, they all didn't dance, right? Like, they just crooned. And so we didn't really think that was a necessity, so we didn't practice it. And I just don't have the skill set for it. Drew obviously can dance, and the other guys can somewhat, move a little bit, but it wasn't a conscious decision until we had to make a conscious decision when we started trying to dance like the other groups, and it didn't translate. Our fan base didn't like it when we came out and started trying it. They're like, just stick to what you guys know. You guys sing the love songs and the mid-tempo stuff. Leave the dancing and all that cool moves up to Backstreet and NSYNC. But we, that being said, we do dance a little bit in the shows. We move around, but not like that.
You're not doing hardcore.
No, and we just like to sing the love songs. That's what we fell in love with, and really everybody's a good vocalist, and we like to talk about the harmony and the different kinds of things that might set us apart. Although those other groups are amazing, incredible singers. So, is
there a song at this point, because you guys are still performing, that you just don't really love doing?
You know what? No. I mean, that sounds like a canned answer. There are a lot of songs I didn't like recording, that I thought weren't a fit. We had some of these songs on our Revelation album. One was called Dizzy. And there was another one that almost became a single called The Way You Want Me To. I wasn't crazy about those songs because it didn't really fit with what, it wasn't a Boys to Men kind of, a cappella kind of vocal song, but they're fun to perform. They're heck of fun to perform because people, they want to get up and dance, so at some point. So, I like doing those, even though it's a challenge for me personally to move to them. But seeing the audience's reactions awesome. All those songs that were hits for us that you never get tired of singing those because the audience, they're looking at it like, it's meant something to them. And when you see people like literally hanging on every word, there's something exciting about that, right? You can't get bored with it, even if you tried. I mean, when you're on a long tour and you start to get a little repetitive with the show, it can get to you a little bit. But once you get on stage every night, it's a different crowd. It's like you're doing it for the first time. And it's never lost on us that we're lucky to do it, right? This can be gone. And it was for us overnight. When we decided to take a break, it was kind of an overnight decision and it was gone for 10 years, 11 years out of our lives. So every day I get out there, I'm like, man, this is a dream. This is exactly what you dreamed about in your house, in your basement with these guys. And you're living it every day now in your 50s. Your fans are still turning out. They're bringing new fans. So enjoy it. Don't take it for granted. You put that in your brain and then it's like it's an enchanted experience, to say the least.
Yeah. I just thought about how you guys had different names that you guys are playing around with before you guys landed on 98 Degrees. And I'm like wondering, would you guys have been as successful had you picked one of those other names that maybe weren't as clicky?
You know what? That's a great question. You never know. I mean, yeah. I don't know. I don't know if we would have either because some of those names were really corny.
Just Us.
Oh, Just Us was the first one. Well, the first name was called Four Tools in a Box. That's how seriously we were taking it.
No way.
The original guys I started a group with, we were 4 tools, 4 screwballs, right?
Oh my God.
And it was kind of a tongue-in-cheek kind of thing and grunge was the style. So here we're grungy guys with kind of mid-length hair and flannels and, we look like bums and singing harmony music, which was really weird. And we were called 4 Tools. Then we went to California and met with some producers who were like, you got to come up with a real name. And we're like, what? The guys looked at us and were like, there was nothing defining about each of us, any of us. So they're just like, Just Us. Call yourselves Just Us. And we did that. And then when we were about to get signed, we were like, that name's not going to cut it. We need to come up with a cooler name. And we didn't come up with the name. Our manager's girlfriend and her friends came up with the name. Once a bunch of pretty girls tell you what to do, you're blinded by reality so you're blinded by beauty. So you kind of get lost in it. And they said 98 Degrees. We're like, cool. It's kind of a catchy, cool name. And I think that the name probably does have a lot to do with the success as well, the branding part of it.
Yeah, the brand is the game sometimes,
Yeah, I mean it's all marketing at the end of the day. I mean, you'll see a lot of these rock groups, and at least back in the TRL days, that were competitive with us, although on the same pop shows and the same pop charts that didn't say what it was about branding. But certainly if you don't stick out and people don't remember you, you're not having a chance. And especially nowadays with all the choices out there and social media and all the songs that are going up there, you got to have something that kind of people remember, right? And they can identify you with, and branding's a big part of it.
Yeah, honestly, the options are kind of overwhelming nowadays. And the fact that you guys have still carved this lane for yourselves even today is really a testament to your impact, your legacy, and all of that. So you have to feel some sense of pride and accomplishment in that.
Absolutely. But, honestly, certainly we worked really hard for it and we take it very seriously, and we're having more fun than ever too, because there's no pressure. But really, it's our fans. I mean, we couldn't do it. If our fans didn't stick with us and they weren't there, we wouldn't do any of this. I mean, the crowds wouldn't be there. There'd be no business for us doing it, but they come out and they support us no matter what we do. And certainly we worked with some really great, talented people. I mean, the people that penned some of those songs and did the production on some of those songs, I mean, those guys were still are as much of a part of the success as we are.
Absolutely. You recently got to really talk about that early era in your career for the Boy Band Confidential docuseries. And that was such a really impressive just series. And I'm so proud of all of you guys for just speaking your truths and everything. And How therapeutic was that for you?
Well, look, some of the stuff we haven't talked about, we've talked about a little bit of it internally, especially not just in a group like this. As men, you're supposed to be strong and not vulnerable, right? Or be tough enough to endure whatever, and that's not the case. A lot of these guys were kids when when the business happened to them personally and professionally, and we were young guys. But it's still we're still human beings, and you're never quite prepared for it. And so some of the stuff we've gone through, and a lot of people have very tragic stories. And we hadn't discussed it, so it was very therapeutic. I've yet to watch the whole entire thing.
Okay.
I kind of afraid to for some reason. Like I don't like watching myself on TV ever. The producers of that were really bringing a lot out of all of us. And I'm like, man, it's tough to kind of dredge up all these things and relive them again. And then I don't really like watch. I'm very critical of myself, not other people, of myself. So I don't want to, I haven't watched the rest of it, but I watched the first episode and was impressed by how well done it was and how everybody was honest and was there to tell their truth about this. And again, when I went into it and they were talking about this, when Joey and actually one of my friends that I've known for a long time produced it, I was like, I don't want it to be a sob story about us the whole time. I want people to be, reminded that we've still lived a pretty amazing life that, 0.1% of the people on earth get to do. So I don't want it to be a pity party for us. And I think they did a good job of kind of balancing that out.
There was a lot of balance, which I think made it more well-rounded and easier for the watcher to digest. But I remember you were talking about, your own journeys and stuff, and you thought you were the weakest link, which that broke my heart. And I thought that was like crazy. It's like, what is he talking about? Why were you thinking that about yourself?
Well, it's kind of, it's just a crazy experience. And look, my whole life, I'm a smaller guy and I played sports, right? So I operated on confidence, right? You got to have confidence. Even if you're faking the funk, you have to have that utmost supreme confidence. And I know there's at times it gets borderline cockiness, but confidence, there's a difference with confidence. Self-belief is not a bad thing, right?
Yeah.
How you portray yourself to other people, if you do that in the wrong ways, that's a different story. But to have confidence, that's like your superpower. So, when people started attacking me from the outside, and it wasn't necessarily the public, it was our inner circle. And then you have myself that's sort of already kind of, very, very critical of everything, my voice, the way I look, and now we're here. I wanted this, and now we've arrived. We've got a record deal. We're recording with legends and all this stuff. There's a tremendous amount of pressure that goes along with that, to where you want to live up to expectations. And, when the label, was constantly talking about, you don't know how to dance, you don't move your head the right way, you're corny, you don't have any flavor, you start to go, and then the sessions were tough because, I love singing lead, but Nick is an elite singer. And so, we would go into the booth and we'd split leads a lot of times, but most of it, it would start off by, I'd go in and they'd be like, you're not doing a good enough job. Get out of there. Nick, go in there, and Nick crushes it in a couple of takes, right? So you start to, and he's amazing. And you start to go, man, I'm not a very good singer either. I don't have flavor like these guys are talking about. I'm just a corny guy from Ohio that's quirky. And then, on top of the way I've already been self-conscious about my looks and dancing, it was a lot of pressure, and I wasn't surrounded by the best girls at that time. I was involved with some goofy girls that were dangerous, all the stuff that comes along with, the music, entertainment stuff that rock stars, they hang out with, edgy females. I didn't have the support system, and my folks were in Ohio, right? And that's who I relied on for support. And I didn't want to bother them with this. They would have been like, or my friends, they would have been like, and half of them quit. So they wouldn't want to hear drama that's going on. So I kind of got lost there for a minute. But the silver lining is it taught me a lot. I got through it. It taught me a lot. And, it definitely was like one of the things you can never lose no matter what is your self-empowerment. When that goes, it's over, right? You have to have faith in yourself no matter what. And so I was like, I will not let anything take that away from me. Right. So, I've I think the lesson was well worth it. It was a dangerous one, but I think it was well worth it.
Yeah. What did that journey of working through all of that look like for you? Because I know you talked about, the mental health challenges that you experienced and asking for help, which is awesome. Like, I'm a big advocate of therapy. I go to therapy. It's amazing. So, yeah.
Well, it was tough because, again, here we are. We've got our dream, right? You're signed to Motown. That's who we wanted to be signed to. I mean, it's a legendary label. And, girls are everywhere. You have any, meet any girl you want, go out with anybody you want. And we weren't making any money. So that wasn't part of it, but you're living the dream life that you wanted. What do you have to be worried about? What are you being such a baby about? So it was tough, but I didn't physically feel good either. I wasn't taking care of myself. I wasn't eating the right way. I was definitely not sleeping or grinding in the studio. I physically wasn't taking care of myself. And so all of those things, it on top of like the lack of confidence and, understanding what was going to happen next, you're also losing faith right at that point too. You can't lose your faith either. Those things all make you feel like empty. And I was like, look, I know I have a lot to offer this world. So I need to get my stuff together. I don't, and I thought, about had some pretty dark thoughts there for a minute, but I was like, I should probably get someone to talk to and first reset the physical part, right? Because once that gets out of whack, a lot of people don't understand your brain is an organ, right? Your emotions are there and your feelings, but there's a physiology behind that. And if that's not there, and you're not, you're putting the wrong oil into the engine, right? And that's not going to, that's part of it. So I went and saw a doctor and he said, look, first of all, your blood sugar, there was a science to it. He's
Oh,
like,
wow.
you're feeling this way for a reason. You're eating this way. You're drinking too much. You're not sleeping. These are things that you need to do to reset your chemistry while the stressors are going on because you will not survive. And so, look, they gave me some medications. Of course, I had some therapy and had to make some lifestyle changes as far as my diet went to get feeling good. But there wasn't time because guess what? The record's coming out. Boom, you better get your together quick. And because you're going, there's not like this recovery time or time to think through things. It's like, you better get it together, get a routine together, stick with it, write things down, look at it, put a regimen together. And so that's what I did. I kind of made a business out of my personal well-being so I could go out and do the work that I needed to do for not just myself, but for my group to be successful. So fortunately, I was able to kind of compartmentalize it like that and be able to turn things around. Once you're physically feeling better, that's probably 60 or 70% of the battle. You're not as edgy and emotional when you're feeling good. So then you can talk through the issues and get a reality check on what's really going on, right? So that's what happened.
That's good. What did your faith journey look like during that time? Because you talked about faith. And so I'm just curious, when it comes to these harder times, how is your faith becoming stronger?
Well, look, we grew up, it wasn't a super religious household. We were raised Catholic, so there was faith involved. But I always had my own personal relationship with God or higher power, whatever anybody wants to look at it like. And I would always look to, the powers that be to help me through stuff and had faith in that. But when you're in the music industry and the entertainment industry, it's surrounded by people that don't seem to really have a lot of source to them a lot of times. And the vibes aren't the best because it's a cutthroat industry and everybody wants things for vanity reasons or financial reasons. At least a lot of the people do. And so, you start to, that starts to get pulled out of you. And when you're surrounded by chaos and maybe the wrong energy and the wrong people, you start to lose your faith. And so I kind of started questioning all of that. But ultimately, when you're desperate and you're hitting rock bottom, at least emotionally, you either have to hang on to faith or you're not going to make it. So I was like, look, I don't know where to turn. I need to get my life in order. I don't want to be thinking this way. So help me through this, God, like get me through it. And so ultimately I lean on that. And even when times get tough, everybody, I don't care how religious you are, everybody questions their faith at some point. If you do believe in something like that, it's natural, right? Because the life is hard. But for me, when things get so hard, and most of the stuff, believe it or not, is out of control, out of our control, right? People like to think it is, but it's not. You're in control of yourself for the most part, right? But I think that you got to go, all right, I've done my best. My intentions are good. I put the work in. The rest has to be unfolded the way the universe and God wants it to unfold. And usually when you kind of release it like that and have faith in what's going to happen, the right thing ends up turning out. And then you go, oh, now all the other stuff makes sense. It's when you try to hold on and control it and feel like you're in charge of your own universe is when you start to let that things start to get kind of out of whack. The world and other people and the universe is bigger than any one of us individually. So you have, at least I have to have that sort of perspective. And that's how I get through really tough times.
It's a learning experience. I think we all literally, like you said, we all are encountering that at some point and debating it.
It's part of being a human being,
Yeah.
The not knowing, right?
Yeah. And, I think about, that time period. I didn't realize how many boy bands were coming up during that era. Is there like a real brotherhood amongst you all? Were you guys leaning on each other, supporting each other, looking out for each other back then?
Well, back then it was competitive. So certainly the NSYNC and Backstreet had their own competitiveness, right? But we always admired anybody that was going through the same sort of stuff that we were. It was such a fast moving business. We encountered those guys and got to form a camaraderie with those guys, but we never got to, any of us got to spend outside of our groups a lot of time with each other until later. Until we started mixing it up and doing different things together. We share a certain bond that's very unique to our groups and what we've been through. The journey's, relatable, although we all have different experiences. The journey's relatable. And certainly have an enormous amount of respect for all of those guys and all of those groups, or anybody that's trying to do something that's out of the box, right? And having success, because once you make that choice, you find you're alone, and even your family, your friends, they might not like it, even though they say they support it. People are getting jealous because you're doing something that they haven't taken the chance to do. It makes you question yourself. These guys have all done that at some point as well. So there's a lot of respect I have for them outside of them being extraordinary talents. And there is a bond there with all of us at this point, this many years later.
I love that. That's so beautiful. When I think about, of course, the 98 Degrees in particular, you guys had that hiatus period. I'm sure that was a challenge just because you're probably like, wait, what am I going to do during this time? So what did that look like for you? What was going on in your head? Were you kind of starting from scratch in many ways?
Yeah, absolutely. Because at that point, it wasn't like the boy bands all had a ton of momentum. Like you said, they started popping up everywhere. So originally it was just us and NSYNC and Backstreet. And then O-Town's on TV getting put together a totally different way. And this is at the tail end of that era, right? That 3-4 years of a lot of this, the Britney and Christina and Mandy Moore and, all the pop groups are coming out in that whole TRL era. Music is cyclical, especially in the United States, right? So everybody was kind of getting tired of it at that time. And that was sort of going out fast. So when I got off the road, I was like, okay, they really the media was over it. It's literally like starting over. So all that momentum that you could have capitalized when you were super hot, maybe networking, maybe starting other business. We were so focused on this, that I'm like, oh man, I should have probably started something while this was going on and followed up with this and started this business or this production company. But it was you're cold. It's like someone turned the heat all the way off, right? So it was a challenge for many years because, when the public decides your time is over, it's over. It's more challenging than if you were to start for the first time. So, you would think that the advantages of the experience or being part of this would give you some inroads, but it was harder. But ultimately, it came around. I found out, that I was much better at producing other things in the studio and, good on other business. And so that allowed me to be home all the time, not nearly out in the public as much, so I could be with my kids and really try to, both be a dad, yet, rediscover myself. And of course, the icing on the cake is when it comes back around, right? When everybody wants to experience the nostalgia of when they were younger and they were kids, which is now. It's been the last, 15 years, which is nice. So there was a lull of about 10. There was a bit of a struggle. But that was worth it as well because you had to be resourceful and scrappy and find a way to have success during that time too.
Yeah, of course, you're 53 right now. What for you in terms of this concept of aging, what does it mean for you? And what are you enjoying most about this age?
I love this age the best. It's
Okay.
finally, yeah, and it sounds like it's kind of a canned answer, but it's not. Everything that came along with the group is there at my disposal to enjoy. Right now, it's fun. It's not all or nothing with us. We have other businesses, we have families. It's not as treacherous, but we get to just enjoy being with each other and our fans. It's almost like a vacation that you get paid for. It's like who would have thought it, right? But that's there. But also, those have afforded me opportunities to get into the creative space for other people too. So whether I'm producing other things, and I've got a documentary I'm working on, a scripted show I'm working on, and unscripted TV and music for other people and different incarnations and lanes of music, it's allowed me to kind of do all these things. And as far as 53, now that if your internet and resources at your disposal, there are technologies out there and ways to feel younger and stay in shape. And a lot of people knock me because I'm in the gym all the time, but really it's just to feel good at this stage in my life and look good for my wife, right? Like and feel, I know a lot of people that are not well at my age, right? And it's just to kind of, live this last, hopefully, half or third or whatever it is, God willing, and enjoy it and be healthy. And so I think that this is the best I've ever felt as well, which is interesting. Even when I was in my 20s, we were pounding beers all the time and partying. So the time when your bodies are optimized, you're destroying them with alcohol, right? And partying. Yeah. And now, I still have a drink here and there, but it's more just kind of staying focused and really, working in other parts of the world too, to give people opportunities to create and get paid for their creation. Some of the things that we didn't always have an opportunity to do, we got recognized for our creation. We got to experience great things. We didn't always get paid for our creations. My goal is to give those people opportunities and hopefully circumvent some of the low lows of the roller coaster ride that we had to go through.
What are your hopes and dreams next on that topic? Like when you're thinking about the next few years and where you want to be at the end of your life, like what are you hoping that you've got done?
I have less stress than ever now. For me, the aspirations, the unknown is exciting to me, right? It used to be scary to me. The unknown's exciting to me because the universe ends up handing me better things than I expected, which is a real joy, right? It sounds corny, but hey, if you have a positive mental outlook and attitude, usually the world reciprocates that, right? So I try to stay in that mentality. Whatever comes my way, I'll enjoy it. If there's a challenge, we'll get through it. And for me, the unknown's just fine. And the exciting part of it is just working with different people. And like the internet gives you the opportunity to explore different parts of the world and work with talent in different parts of the world and work with good people. One of the tough things in this business is finding the right team. Thankfully, we've been able to come around to where I've been able to put myself in a position where I can work with people that I want to work with, right? And not everybody has that luxury. It's not always about the money. There could be a big opportunity that pays big money, but if the team surrounding it doesn't feel right, I don't need to do that. You know what I mean? I don't need to do it. You will make plenty of money somewhere else, right? Money's an afterthought. It comes with the vibe, right? And so, once you kind of get in that direction, everything's gravy. It's a good life. I mean, I've been a very lucky guy. It's not been without challenges, but I've been really blessed.
That is, I think, the perfect note to end it on because, I mean, I couldn't have said that better myself.
Well, I appreciate you. I'm very thrilled for you.
Thank you, Jeff. I really appreciate you, and I'm so happy to know you.
Good. Likewise, I feel blessed to know you too, and glad we crossed paths. So good luck on everything, and hit me up whenever, anytime. I appreciate you taking the time with me.
Of course. Have a good one. Bye.
Right. See you, Dory.
Thank you so much for watching this week's video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more content like this from me, Dory Jackson. Bye for now.